Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Voltron Legendary Defender comic review. This one is going to be for issue 5 of series 1 of the Voltron comic series from Lionforge Comics. And this is the final issue of this season 1. So, 5-issue series. The trade paperback is coming out in January, so for anyone who doesn't have like a comic book store nearby them to check out this series. January, when the trade paperback, which collects all 5 issues, and I assume there'll be a few extras in it, when that comes in January, that'll be available in a lot more places, like Amazon will have that, so it should be pretty easy to get once it comes out. But we do have the completion of the series here. Also, really cool on the back we get an advertisement for the toys. It's really cool that they're finally going to be coming out, I think also in January, I assume to coincide with Season 2, so January looks to be a really big month for this new Voltron series. The toys are coming out, Season 2 is coming out on Netflix, comic trade paperback, so this comic series will be much more widely available and talked about. As for myself, I suppose just with the toys, I've never really talked about them on my channel. I'm interested to see them in person. I'm probably going to wait before I even decide on getting any of them until I see some reviews. The deluxe ones that actually like are lines that transform into parts of Voltron sound really interesting in that they seem like they're more aimed at collectors. I just want to see how they actually work in practice in video reviews. But anyway, let's get into issue 5. So yeah, nice cover here with Shiro on the front and the black lion. I wouldn't necessarily say that this is like a Shiro focused issue. Ultimately, like, he's more of a focus, kind of, but nothing he does in here is particularly like, wow, this is an amazing new side of Shiro. It's just Shiro definitely gets a lot more dialogue in this issue than he has in previous ones, and ultimately you probably would say of all the characters he is the focus one in this issue. But it's not like huge. It's not like as good as like the Page issue was for her, the Hunk issue was for him, or the Lance issue. It's just like, yeah, he's being the leader here. That's really about it. So where we left off last time was that the last issue led us to believe that, okay, this is going to be the final stage of the journey. They have to go to Planet Krell, the kind of shadow, the ever shadow of the moon of Planet Krell. That'll be where you find the, Yalax, and you'll fight it to get the Alexian Pearl, and so on. And it's really cool as we arrive here. You get to look at the planet, the kind of Planet Krell, and then the moon of Planet Krell there as they head in. And the basic gist is that they arrive on here, they don't really know what to expect, and that, like, is the monster just going to be right there? Is the Pearl just going to be right there and they're going to have to fight to get the Pearl, or what? But when they arrived, they basically discovered this kind of species of kind of aliens on the planet there, looking really cool. They have no issue with Voltron, they're just like, oh, fine. And we get introduced to them. They kind of split up, follow them back to their temple, and in a really, really cool art page. And I gotta say, one thing that's really impressed me throughout this entire 5-issue Voltron series has been the art. The digital art chefs have done an amazing job at the art in these books, and there's always been 1 or 2 pages that just completely wow me each time round. This one actually has 2, well, I suppose 4 pages technically, but first double page spread of the temple, gorgeous, really, really nice. And they initially think that that thing right there in the middle is the Alexian Pearl, and you can sort of see that the way that they're going with this species is that they're sort of religious. They kind of sacrifice things, they collect stuff and offer it to the Yalax, and they kind of treat it like a religious figure, and they're like, yes, this thing in the middle, it is the Alexian Pearl, like, but then they're kind of just like, no, it's actually just symbolism. That's not actually the Pearl, but it is a Pearl in one way. So there's a little bit of jokes about, like Page jokes, right here. Oh, stupid symbolism, because that's the way it is. The Pearl, the moon, the eye, time, life, all are the circle, never ending, never broken. And the whole time they're just like, why are they speaking in riddles the whole time? But anyway, they're preparing for this, and it turns out the timing is perfect for this. The Yalax will soon, return, and they basically reveal that, part of their like religion, their culture, is that they discover like the true meaning of life in death at the hands of the Yalax, and they're kind of willing to accept that because it will give them, enlightenment to some degree. and they kind of say, you know, the Yalex is the pearl, the Yalex is the creator and the destroyer, treasure and terror, redeemer and annihilator, savior and executioner. One is all, the fire in the dark, the eye that is blind is most prized. So like, he's speaking in riddles, they kind of ignore him for the most part. But they finally offer everything up to the Yalex, and what happens is a really, really cool thing to make this final issue more impactful than all of the other ones that have come before. We know we're going to get a big monster fight, but how do you make this big monster fight bigger than all the other ones? Make the monster even bigger. Make the monster destroy an entire moon. And in a another really cool double page spread here, the Yalex bursts out of the moon of Krell. The planet that they're on just explodes as this monster comes out of it, and we get a really cool sequence just as like the lions and all of our paladins on the moon, plus all of the inhabitants of this place, mainly the priests of this species, are sent flying through space. It seems to be revealed that there's no atmosphere on the planet, so they can breathe in a vacuum, or they don't need to breathe or whatever. Our paladins are obviously in their kind of armor, so they can go through space. They're kind of floating around the place, and they kind of discover very quickly, at least Shiro does, that the center eye of the Yalex, that's the Yalexian Pearl, and what the religious people were talking about, that the eye is the most prized, is in fact, you know, actually true. So this is where Shiro takes kind of command. He's like, okay, I'll go get Paige, who's kind of being soaked really close to the Yalex. Everyone else form up. We're going to go Voltron as soon as possible. They form Voltron, and the fight begins. But for one of the first times in the series, we just have a huge size disadvantage for Voltron. That the enemy they're facing is just so much bigger than it. None of their attacks can do much, just based on pure size of kind of what's going on here. But yeah, the big, I suppose, trick to this fight, they don't really spend tons of time like having a huge battle, is mainly that Shiro goes, Paige, if Lance can form a layer of ice on our shield, could that act as a mirror to reflect the Yalex's lasers? Because the way the Yalex fires is basically that all of its eyes, except the pearl eye, can fire lasers at them, and they're really powerful. So they're kind of like, okay, we'll use ice to deflect them. And Paige says, like, we can do it a few times, but eventually the ice will melt as a result of the lasers. And so what happens is the lasers are fired, they deflect it back, and what happens is that once they hit the Yalexian Pearl, basically, the monster explodes. So its own lasers kind of kill it, and they think they've just destroyed the Pearl, their one chance to get Karan back. They think they've just destroyed it, and they're floating through space. They save all of the people who are still floating, because obviously only the paladins have booster packs to fly around space properly. They save them, bring them back then to the actual planet Krell, where they're thanked, and they kind of reveal that, okay, we were slightly wrong about our religion, but thank you for returning us to our people. I suppose this is a new beginning of a new age, just not as we imagined. And we're happy to see you all reunited. Now have to see if we can reunite with our friends. So they want to save Karan still, and then the guy reveals that actually there's something over there on the planet that may interest you. They head over there, and in a crater is the Pearl. And in a really, really funny moment, it's revealed that the Yalexian Pearl that they had to get was not just some small artifact, a usual pearl or something like that would be like this size or something like that. It's actually like something that Voltron struggles to lift. It's a really kind of funny reveal that it's this huge thing, and it's just really, really hilarious the way it's done. Then the last page wraps everything up. Out of the temple on the planet Krell walk Karan and Kythalian Mu from before, and it's revealed that it was all a plan from Karan, that he was never kidnapped. This was all a setup for him for a training mission for Team Voltron, that he wanted to test them by going through all of this stuff. The threat to the planet Krell was always real, and that the only way to kind of properly defeat it was obviously to get the Yalexian Pearl by killing the monster and saving the planet Krell. So it was a training mission, but an actual mission at the same time. And it's revealed that this happened before, because he says, last time we did this, Alfor got into some kind of board game with a line thingy. He never stopped talking about it, just suggesting that, like, okay, so Karan was aware of when Alfor, as part of the previous set of paladins, took this on. So I think that's one of the first times we get, like, I suppose, absolute 100% confirmation that Alfor was one of the paladins. Because they've always been quite vague about that, and like I think it was in issue 1 or 2, the whole table, they walk into the place and the table, and his name is on part of the table as like a part of the whole Paladins of Voltron thing. But they never made it clear if it was just like, is it because he's the one who made Voltron? I think we know that as a fact, that Alfor was the one who like created Voltron. But we never really knew, like, is he just kind of part of Team Voltron because he created Voltron, or is he actually a part of it? Like, so it kind of still presents the whole idea of like, what color line is he? And that's going to be fascinating to see if that's ever revealed. But nice to get confirmation on that now. And we just end with, you know, like, I think we trained enough, it's time to get back to fighting Zarkon. And then it's actually revealed that now Kythalion can sell the pearl and use the GAC, the money, to fight Zarkon. So he's actually on their side completely in the war. He's going to assist them by selling this giant pearl for a ton of money, and they're going to get stuff about that. I would love to see season 2 of Voltron address this, and that, like, in the lead up to like the finale of season 1, whatever, season 2, season 1B, or whatever you want to call it, that we get some sort of reveal like this. We meet Kythalion in the show for the first time, and he reveals that this money from this event that they did before, he's got them this new weaponry for Voltron or something like that, passage, some ship, some upgrade to the castle or something like that. He's got them what they need to defeat Zarkon. I'd love to see some sort of a reference to the comics going forward, because, you know, that's a fun little line there. I just hope that actually has some meaning. That them saying that he's going to help us fight Zarkon with the money, that it has some meaning. But overall, that's issue 5, the final issue of this series. Series 1, because as I said, issue 4, the description for issue 5, like the solicitation basically for issue 5 in issue 4, says, find out in the final issue of series 1. Now, nothing at the end of issue 5, like, says series 1 or anything like that. There's no, like, setup for, like, what series 2 is. But it seems like that's something that they're probably going to do. Like, it says November Hot List, Voltron Legendary Defender number 5, in the 5th and final issue of DreamWorks, you know, and so on. So it's going to be interesting to see if they do in fact continue. You know, I suppose this is another thing. They do have the solicitation for the trade paperback, and they say Volume 1 trade paperback. So that suggests that there is going to be a second Voltron comic series for Volume 2. Otherwise, why would they even call it Volume 2 and not just call it just the Voltron comic collection? So that's kind of going to be really cool. Coming in January, of course. And yeah, that's basically it. Final thoughts on this entire series, all 5 issues. Let's quickly go through it. We have issue 1 here. Issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, issue 5. I think it's a good series. I think I read a lot of tie-in comics for like other, you know, cartoon properties, and oftentimes the problem that they have is that while they're like a reasonably fun story, there's no massive impact, because fundamentally the story feels very unimportant, that it could happen at any point in time. This feels a little different. This feels like there's some effort put into this in terms of placing it in the timeline. Just the simple thing of each issue telling you, like, this takes place immediately after 108 Rebirth. That's when it takes place within the series. There is a gap in the series at that point. It makes sense for this to happen. And then I think just the way they did the series, where there was like little hints at reveals for bigger things, like Alfor, references to the old Paladins, hints at stuff like what Lance's like special weapon for Voltron might be in the future. You know, he tried to activate it but nothing happened, and they were like, oh, maybe you still need some training to make that work. Things like that, plus the Kythalion Moo line at the end, make it feel like, oh, they might actually reference this comic going forward. but still, you know, it is something that, like, you don't have to read this to gain, like, appreciation for what's going to happen in season 2 of the show, or what happens in the episodes after this in terms of the continuity. But I think it's a series that, if you are a really big fan of Voltron Legendary Defender based off season 1, this as the only other tie-in material to that show, you should definitely check this out. It is probably not worth at this point trying to track down the individual issues, but absolutely when January comes around and we get the release of the trade paperback, I think that is absolutely worth getting, because it's going to have all 5 issues collected. There'll probably be some sort of extras, like maybe interviews or something like that. There might be a little teaser for whatever season 2 of the comic is, and that'll be fun. Definitely check it out, because I assume it's going to be either something like $15 or $20, and for like 5 issues, you know, 100 and something pages of comic with really good art, that's absolutely worth it. Yeah, I'm just going to end it pretty much there. I think the writing is good. As I said before, it's written by Tim Hedrick and let me just get this right. Tim Hedrick and Mitch Iverson, who obviously work on the show. Art by the Digital Art Chefs, who I'd never heard about before prior to this comic series, and it seems like it's a team name for a bunch of people, but it's definitely like something I might actually look up some of the other stuff they've done, if they have done anything, because I've been really impressed with their art so far. As I said, how they do the characters, you know, the human characters, plus how they do the robots, plus how they do the biological monsters, that's really impressive, because as someone who reads like Transformers comics, I'm very used to artists who can get robots really good, like do Transformer art really well, but then when you introduce a human character in, they look really bad. I'm used to that. I'm used to the reverse as well, that some artists get the human characters really well, but really struggle to draw Transformers correctly. Whereas with these guys, it really felt like they could do anything. It was just really strong. So that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.